Once upon a time, a very long time ago, there was a distant gas giant planet on the far edges of its solar system. Not much is known about the origins of Nezipon, and even modern science has not been able to explain the phenomenon that happens there. But as one legend goes, there was a lonely spirit that got confined to this planet, but still wanted to have life and wanted to create life and stuff, so he made life. But this theory is still unconfirmed. What is known is that there are two bright celestial bodies circling around inside the planet that give the inside the warmth and life it needs. It's like a rocky planet inside of a gas giant. It's very strange. On Nezipon, multiple different species of intelligent life evolved, but none of them really started their own societies right away. There were some exceptions, such as dragons, which their origin is pretty unknown. They're very secretive about a lot of things. And there is one myth going around that there was like an early civilization that formed and like started civilization, and then the dragons were like all that was left of it, but that's also just speculation. The dragons have had a society for a very long time, and for a very long period of time, most of the planet's history, they had a monopoly on the magic system. I'm hoping to get more into this on future videos, but this is more meant to be like a general overview, so I don't want to go into excruciating detail on that just yet. However, civilization didn't really thrive until humans came along. Humans were initially basically used as like slaves by the dragons who were in charge of the world at that time, but once they decided to become more isolate in the mountains, the humans were able to flourish and develop agriculture. They weren't exactly the first civilization to do this, as they would later find out, but they were the first civilization that they knew of that had agriculture, and this kicked off the dawn of civilizations age. So a few civilizations started. The first ever civilization that was like really organized and structured was Rakaru, which was in this river valley on the western side of the world. Some other early civilizations that formed were Ruzihuan and Khmaido, the latter of which no longer exists. But these civilizations discovering each other was another major turning point. Basically, merchants became like some of the most powerful people in society, since they were the ones who would sort of manage the wealth and carry goods and stuff between the different civilizations. And there was a big cultural exchange that happened. And sometime around this era, the first calendar was formed in Rakaru. This marked the division between PE and ME eras. The PE era was basically this was all of the time before the invention of the first calendar. The dawn of civilization's age kind of lasted from 2000 PE until about 0 PE. The PE period of history is still very much shrouded in a lot of mystery. Not a ton is known about it, but next is the ME period, which is modern era. Also, PE stands for previous era or prior era. Sorry, I forgot to point that out earlier. Anyways, modern era is just about the last approximately 6,000 years of history, and a lot more is known about it. To start off was the trading era, where like the civilizations were discovering each other and the merchants were prosperous. This primarily lasted for the first 1,000 or so years ME. Next came what is called the Exploration Age, from about 1000 to 2000 ME. Basically, this was a period of discovery where the humans were like figuring out their world and starting to discover things and starting to form empires, and this is when a lot of the diversity really came into play. Next came the Enlightening Age, which lasted from about 2000 to about 2800 ME. This is the period when most of the major world religions developed, and humanity really started to adhere to more defined moral codes. This is also like kind of the starting period of philosophy and whatnot. But after that was the Lost Age, which lasted from about 2800 to about 3400. This age is known as the Lost Age because a lot of the records have not really been preserved, mainly because of what happened after, but also because this period was defined by a lot of turmoil and chaos. Meanwhile, in the mountains of the Draconic Plateau, where the dragons resided, something sinister was brewing. A regime that would conquer nearly an entire continent. In the following period, known as the Draconic Age, this period was marked by a pretty drastic shift in the government of the dragons into a more imperial state that eventually started taking over most of the continent, and they ruled with an iron fist for about 4 centuries. They did a lot of weird and bizarre magical experiments, used magic to create a bunch of other species, basically just pulled an all tomorrows. But after this period, the empire collapsed due to internal instability, and the world was in a period of recovery for a few hundred years, from about 3800 to 4200 ME, a period basically defined by humanity and all the other species that were created were trying to figure out how to proceed, and they eventually managed to reach some semblance of stability, which started the Seaward Age from about 4200 to about 5000 ME. During this time, 2 other continents had been explored and colonized. One of the continents had a very advanced race of people that had evolved from flying fish, known as the Psarurans, and they were actually the ones to develop agriculture before humans did, so they had a pretty developed civilization. And this Seaward Age was defined by a lot of conflict between the humans and the Psarurans and a ton of cultural exchange. Then came the Liberation Age, which lasted from about 5000 to about 5500 ME. This period was characterized by a lot of nations and distinct cultural identities gaining independence from the ruling empires. One notable example is Pisisis, which was a former colony of Ibrisis, and now kind of reigns as one of the world's superpowers. And this was the period that Pisisis and other nations like it really started to gain their freedom. Finally is the Technological Age. From about 5500 ME to the present, which it's currently about 6000 ME, this period saw the dawn of a ton of new technology, including artificial life, which basically is just AI, but sentient. And in recent years, AI species have actually started to organize and form their own countries, desiring to be independent of humans. Basically, for a few centuries, they've just been used as sort of just working robots for the human population, but during the latter part of this period, or the past 2 centuries, there's been a big movement to, they've wanted to be more independent. So yeah, that kind of takes us to the modern day. This is the entire timeline. And yeah, that's the entire brief, very condensed history of Nezipon. It wasn't very in-depth, but there was a heck of a lot to cover, and I hope to get more into it and sort of develop the history and the modern-day nations in a bit more detail in the future. So anyways, I think I have held your attention for long enough, so again, thank you so much for clicking on this video, and if you like what you're seeing, make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel, and I I really hope to see you next time. Peace.